In 1990, the cosmologist J. Richard Gott published a paper. It was in the journal Physical Review Letters. The paper was about cosmic strings. Cosmic strings are not proven to exist. They are a theoretical idea. They are hypothetical defects like cracks left over from the very early universe. Gott theorized that these strings, if they exist, would be incredibly dense. A string just 1 kilometer long could weigh more than the Earth. He calculated what would happen if two of these supermassive strings moved past each other at nearly the speed of light. The gravity would be so intense it would warp space-time. It would warp it so much that it could create a loop, a path that leads back into its own past. He called this a closed time-like curve. It was a blueprint for a time machine. It was not a practical blueprint. You would need to find 2 cosmic strings. You would need to move them at near light speed. But the math worked. The laws of physics, as we understood them, allowed for it. This idea that the past might not be completely walled off from the future is not just a fantasy. It is a possibility buried in the equations that describe our universe, and it opens a strange question. If someone, someday, builds such a machine, or finds a natural one, where will they go? Or, a more unsettling question, what if they already have? And what if, someday, that someone is us? Number 17, we might forget where we came from. The Voyager 1 probe travels at over 61,000 kilometers per hour. At that speed, reaching the nearest star system, Proxima Centauri, would take about 76,000 years. A human mission on a generational ship designed to last for centuries might take even longer. The records of the first humans to board such a ship would be stored digitally. The best archival quality magnetic tape has a lifespan of about 30 years. M-Disc optical media claims a lifespan of 1,000 years, but 76,000 years is a different scale of time. It is longer than all of recorded human history. A journey across interstellar space would not be short. It would take generations, not 1 or 2, but hundreds, maybe thousands. The people who arrive at the destination will not be the people who left. Their great-great-great-great-grandparents will have been born on the ship. So will their grandparents and their parents. The concept of a home planet of Earth would become abstract. It would be a story, a legend. Think about our own history. We can read texts from 2,000 years ago, but we cannot speak the languages fluently. The cultures are alien to us. Now multiply that distance by 30 or 40. The language of the original crew would drift. It would evolve into a new dialect, then a new language entirely. The original mission logs, the reason for the journey, might become unreadable. They would be like ancient hieroglyphs that no one remembers how to translate. The ship's computer would fight data degradation, but over tens of thousands of years, bits flip, files corrupt. A single solar flare in the wrong place could wipe out a server bank containing a library of history. The society on the ship would be completely isolated. It would develop its own culture, its own myths, its own religion. The story of Earth would be passed down, but it would change with each telling. It might become a perfect garden, a paradise from which they were cast out. The original crew members could become deified. Their names turned into the names of gods. The mission commander becomes the great creator. The chief engineer, the one who tamed the ship's fusion reactor, becomes the god of fire and light. When this ship finally arrives at a new habitable world, its people will be pioneers. But they will also be people without a concrete history. They will have advanced technology. Sure, they will have star charts, but they might not know for certain why they came. The true story of their origin might be lost, replaced by a creation myth that took shape in the belly of a metal ark crossing the void. So they land on this new planet. Maybe it already has primitive life, or maybe they are the first. They step out of their ship carrying tools and knowledge that are the product of 100,000 years of development. To any native population, they would not seem human. They would seem like gods who came from a star. And in a way, they would be. They would bring with them a story of a heavenly place called Earth, a place of blue waters and green land, a place they can describe but cannot prove exists. Their own origin story would sound exactly like the myths we hear about ancient visitors from the stars. They would be the ancient aliens, not because they are from a different species, but because they have been traveling for so long, they have forgotten who they are. Their past has become a legend, their technology a form of magic, their arrival a moment of creation for a new world. Number 16, our waste is almost eternal. A modern plastic water bottle takes about 450 years to decompose. A disposable diaper takes about 500 years. As glass bottles can take 1,000,000 years, the spent nuclear fuel from our power plants will remain dangerously radioactive for over 240,000 years. This is a time frame longer than the entire existence of Homo sapiens. We are already creating artifacts that will outlast our civilization, our species, maybe even the next ice age. Imagine a future human colony on a distant planet, or perhaps a survey team that visited the deep past on Earth. They are not perfect. They make mistakes. They leave things behind. It does not need to be a complex piece of technology. It could be a simple stainless steel fork. Stainless steel is an iron alloy with at least 10.5% chromium. This chromium content creates a passive film of chromium oxide that prevents further surface corrosion. A stainless steel object buried in stable, dry soil could last for millennia with very little degradation. A geologist or an archaeologist thousands of years in the future unearths this fork. They have no context for it. The object is clearly manufactured. It is an alloy that their level of technology cannot produce or even analyze properly. It has a strange, unnatural resistance to decay. It is an out-of-place artifact. It is evidence of a visitor. The shape is strange, a handle and 4 prongs. Perhaps it was a weapon or a ceremonial object, a key to some unknown machine. Without the simple context of eating, its purpose becomes a profound mystery. Now consider our more complex waste. We have over 34,000 objects larger than 10 centimeters orbiting the Earth right now. This is space junk. Dead satellites, spent rocket stages, fragments from collisions. This orbital debris will stay up there for centuries, some for thousands of years. A future civilization on Earth, or a visiting alien race, would look up and see a shell of artificial objects encasing the planet. It would be a clear sign of a technological past. A Kessler syndrome cascade could create a permanent, glittering belt of tiny, dangerous fragments. This belt would be an artifact on a planetary scale. Our probes sent to other planets are another form of long-lasting waste or legacy. The Curiosity rover on Mars is powered by a radioisotope thermoelectric generator. It uses the decay of plutonium-238 to generate electricity. This element has a half-life of 87.7 years. The generator will continue to produce a tiny amount of heat for centuries. The rover itself, made of aluminum, titanium, and carbon composites, will sit on the Martian surface, slowly being covered by red dust. It will last for millions of years in the thin, dry Martian atmosphere. It is an artificial fossil waiting to be found. Anyone who finds it will find a machine made of exotic materials with a still warm heart of a radioactive element not found naturally on Mars. It would be irrefutable proof that someone from another world was there. Our garbage, our forgotten tools, and our abandoned machines will be the silent monuments we leave behind. They will be the inexplicable artifacts that fuel the myths of future ancient astronaut theorists. Number 15, we are already rewriting life's code. In 2012, Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuelle Charpentier published their findings on a system called CRISPR-Cas9. It is a tool that allows scientists to edit genes with incredible precision. They can cut, copy, and paste DNA sequences. In 2020, a patient was treated for sickle cell disease using this technology, effectively editing her own blood cells to cure the condition. We are no longer just subject to the slow process of natural evolution. We are beginning to direct it. This technology is in its infancy, but what will it look like in 100 years? Or 1,000? We could engineer humans to be resistant to all known viruses. We could make them immune to cancer. We could give them the ability to see in the infrared or ultraviolet spectrum. We could design them to breathe in thin atmospheres or survive higher levels of radiation. This is not science fiction. The biological pathways for these traits exist in other animals. It is an engineering problem. Now imagine these genetically engineered humans traveling to another planet. They arrive on a world with a primitive, intelligent species. The visitors are tall, strong, and never get sick. They can survive in the harsh mountains without special equipment because their lungs are more efficient. Their eyes seem to glow slightly in the dark because they can see in near infrared. They can eat local plants that are poisonous to the natives because their livers have been engineered to neutralize the toxins. To the native population, these visitors would be gods. They would be immune to the plagues that sweep through villages. They would be able to perform feats of strength and endurance that seem supernatural. A simple act of compassion, like curing a native child of a genetic disorder with a single nanite injection, would be seen as a divine miracle. The visitors are not magical. They are simply the product of their technology. But the distinction is meaningless to a pre-industrial society. We are also learning to create life from scratch. In 2010, the J. Craig Venter Institute created the first synthetic bacterial cell. They built a genome on a computer and transplanted it into a cell, which then came to life and replicated. In the future, we could design custom microorganisms to terraform a planet. We could release bacteria that are designed to produce oxygen and thicken an atmosphere. We could introduce fungi that break down toxic soil and make it fertile. A primitive species on this planet would witness a world-changing event. The sky changes color over a few generations. The ground becomes soft and black. New plants, designed in a lab far away, begin to grow. The visitors are not just powerful beings. They are creators. They are literally making the world habitable. The stories passed down would not be of scientists and bacteria. They would be of gods who breathed life into the sky and made the deserts bloom. Our mastery of biology would be the foundation of their religion. Our genetic engineering would be their proof of divine intervention. Number 14, our drones will look like spirits. The U.S. military operates the RQ-4 Global Hawk surveillance drone. It can fly at 60,000 feet for over 30 hours. It sees everything on the ground, but is almost invisible and completely silent to anyone below. In 2013, Harvard University developed the RoboBee, a flying microbot the size of a paperclip. It is powered by piezoelectric actuators and is so small, it is difficult to track. We are building machines that can observe, interact, and operate without being seen. Consider how this technology would appear to a past or primitive culture. A team of future human explorers or scientists wants to study a society without disturbing it. The prime directive of non-interference is paramount, so they do not land in a giant spaceship. They send in a swarm of autonomous drones. These drones are the size of insects. They are made of materials that do not reflect light in the visible spectrum. They are completely silent. These tiny machines fly through the villages and cities. They record the language. They map the social structures. They analyze the biology of the local life forms. From time to time, one might malfunction and be seen. A person might catch a glimpse of something small and metallic hovering in the air before it darts away at an impossible speed. Or they might find a small, strange, lifeless object on the ground, a piece of technology so advanced it is indistinguishable from a natural object, like a beetle or a seed pod. These sightings would become folklore, stories of fairies, sprites, or spirits that watch from the woods. They are glimpsed but never caught. They are associated with strange hums or moments of weird silence. They are the unseen watchers. Now, imagine the technology is used for more than just observation. A medical emergency occurs. A member of the native population is injured and dying. The future humans, bound by their ethics, decide to intervene in a way that is subtle. They send a medical drone. This drone is not a large machine. It is a cloud of nanobots directed by a larger hovering drone that remains cloaked in the upper atmosphere. The nanobot cloud descends on the injured person. It knits tissue back together. It fights infection. It seals a wound instantly. To the person's family, it would look like a miracle. A shimmering cloud, a wisp of smoke, or a ball of light descends from the sky. It touches their loved one and they are healed. This is not technology, this is divine intervention. The ball of light becomes a recurring motif in their religious art. The story of the healing spirit becomes a central part of their faith. Our delivery drones, like the ones being tested by Amazon and Google, could be misinterpreted. A drone drops a package of supplies for a stranded exploration team. A native finds the package first. Inside is food that never spoils, water that is perfectly pure, and tools of incredible utility. The native does not see the drone that left it. They just see a gift that appeared from nowhere. A gift from the gods. Our mundane, everyday logistics and surveillance technology would be the source of an entire world's mythology. The little metal helpers we are building today would be the angels, demons, and nature spirits of tomorrow's ancient aliens. Number 13, we can print objects from nothing. In 1983, Chuck Hull invented stereolithography, the first commercial 3D printing technology. Today, we can 3D print objects from plastic, metal, ceramic, and even living cells. In 2014, a company in China, Winsun, printed 10 houses in 24 hours using a massive 3D printer and a mixture of cement and recycled construction waste. The European Space Agency is researching how to 3D print a moon base using lunar regolith as the primary material. The ability to create complex objects on demand from raw materials is a transformative technology. In the future, this capability will become far more advanced. Imagine a handheld device. You point it at a pile of dirt, rock, or even just air. You select a design from a digital library. The device uses directed energy and molecular assemblers to rearrange the matter into the object you want. You need a cup. A few seconds later, a ceramic cup materializes in your hand, formed from the silicon, oxygen, and other elements in the surrounding soil. This is a replicator straight out of science fiction, but it is a logical endpoint of the 3D printing and nanotechnology we are developing now. How would this technology be perceived by a society without a concept of atomic structure or digital fabrication? A team of future explorers arrives on a new world. They need to set up a camp. One of them takes out a device. They point it at the ground and a shelter rises from the earth in a matter of minutes. Walls, a roof, furniture, all seamlessly formed from the local rock. They need tools. Another person points a device, and a set of intricate metal tools appears, seemingly out of thin air. They are hungry. A food synthesizer rearranges organic polymers to create a nutritious meal. To any observer, this is not manufacturing. It is creation. It is magic of the highest order. The visitors can make things appear from nothing. They can turn dirt into buildings. They can conjure food from thin air. The stories told about them would describe them as gods with the power to shape the world with a thought or a gesture. The devices they use, our advanced 3D printers, would become legendary artifacts. The staff of a god that can build a city with a touch. The horn of plenty that can create endless food. The objects we print could also become mysteries. We might print a complex diagnostic tool with moving parts and internal circuitry, all in one piece. If it is lost or left behind, it would be a puzzle for any future civilization. Their scientists would cut it open and find no seams, no welds, no signs of assembly. It would appear to be a single, impossibly complex piece of material. They would have no explanation for how it was made. The structures we build would be equally baffling. A building printed from a single, continuous piece of material with a complex internal structure like bone marrow to give it strength and lightness. It would have no bricks, no mortar, no beams. It would be a monolithic sculpture. Future archaeologists would be stumped. How did the ancients build such a structure? What tools did they use? The answer is they did not build it in a traditional sense. They printed it. Our ability to manipulate matter at a fundamental level would make our simplest acts of construction appear to be the work of gods. Number 12, our search for resources will remake worlds. The global demand for lithium, a key component in batteries, is expected to increase by over 40 times by 2040. A single asteroid, 16 Psyche, located in the asteroid belt, is thought to contain iron, nickel, and other metals, including gold, worth an estimated $10 to 00 to 00 to 00 dollars. Companies like Planetary Resources and Deep Space Industries have already been formed with the goal of mining asteroids. This is the beginning of an industrialization of our solar system. In the distant future, our need for resources will be astronomical. Building massive starships, terraforming planets, and supporting a population of trillions will require matter and energy on a scale we can barely comprehend. The solution will not be to mine our home planet to dust. It will be to harvest the raw materials of space. We will move asteroids, we will dismantle moons, we will engage in stellar husbandry, managing the output of stars. This is geoengineering on a cosmic scale. How would such an operation look to a less advanced civilization? Imagine a primitive society on a planet in a star system that future humans have targeted for resource extraction. One day, a new star appears in their sky. It is a fusion-powered construction platform moving into orbit. Then, the stars begin to move. The future humans are using mass drivers to redirect asteroids from the system's belt to a processing facility. To the people on the planet below, the gods are rearranging the heavens. The process of terraforming a nearby planet would be even more dramatic. Future humans decide to make the local Mars-like planet habitable. They redirect a few icy comets to crash into its surface, delivering water and other volatiles. The impacts are visible from the neighboring planet. Bright flashes in the night sky, followed by a slow, visible change on the face of the other world. A new ocean begins to form. Then, they begin an atmospheric conversion. They might build a massive solar mirror in orbit to warm the planet's surface. To the primitives, it looks like a second and possibly bright sun has appeared in the sky. They seed the new atmosphere with engineered microbes to produce oxygen. Over centuries, the reddish dot in their sky slowly turns blue and white. The primitives are witnessing the creation of a world. Their entire cosmology, their myths and legends, would be shaped by this process. They would see powerful beings moving stars, creating oceans, and painting the sky of a neighboring world. The various stages of the engineering project would be interpreted as the acts of different gods in a grand creation story. The god of fire brings the second sun. The god of water sends the ice stars to create the sea. The goddess of the sky breathes the air that turns the red world blue. Our industrial scale operations would be their genesis. We are not there to communicate with them. They are simply bystanders to a massive construction project. Our motives are not divine, they are practical. We need the iron from the asteroids. We need another planet to live on, but from their perspective, our actions are a complete reordering of their universe by an unseen, all-powerful force. The evidence of our work would be written across their sky. The ancient aliens did not just visit them. They built their heaven and earth right before their eyes. Number 11, our knowledge will seem like prophecy. As of 2023, The amount of digital data created worldwide was estimated to be around 120 zettabytes. A zettabyte is a trillion gigabytes. The Large Hadron Collider produces about 90 petabytes of data per year. Our ability to generate, store, and analyze data is growing exponentially. We are creating simulations of everything from weather patterns and economic markets to the formation of galaxies. In the future, our predictive capabilities will be astonishing. With enough data and processing power, we could create a highly accurate simulation of a planet's climate for the next 10,000 years. You know, we could predict every earthquake, every volcanic eruption, every, major hurricane. We could model the social and technological development of a primitive society with a reasonable degree of accuracy, predicting famines, wars, and periods of innovation. Imagine a small team of human observers studying a pre-industrial civilization. They have access to this predictive technology. They know a massive solar flare is due to hit the planet in 3 days, which will cause auroras and disrupt the magnetic field. One of the humans, perhaps against regulations, decides to warn a local tribe. He does not explain the physics of solar plasma ejections. He says, in 3 days, the sky will be filled with colored fire, and the sacred stones that point north will spin. When it happens exactly as he said, he is not seen as a scientist with a good forecast. He is a prophet, he can speak the will of the heavens. This could be repeated with other events. The observers know a volcano will erupt in a specific year. They warn the locals to move their village. The village is saved. They know a drought is coming. They advise the people to store grain. They survive the famine. They know where a rich vein of copper is located miles beneath the Earth's surface because their geological sensors have mapped the entire planet's crust. They divine the location for the local smiths. The humans are not predicting the future through supernatural means. They are reading a weather report, a geological survey, a complex computer model. But to the locals, this is indistinguishable from divine knowledge. The warnings and advice of the visitors would form the basis of a set of prophecies. A sacred text would be written, recording the words of the beings from the sky. Even our historical records would seem like prophecy. Imagine we travel to the past of our own Earth. We meet a tribe in 10,000 BC. We could tell them about the rise of Sumeria, the building of the pyramids, the Roman Empire, the discovery of the Americas. We are just recounting history. To them, we are telling the entire future of their world. Our history book is their book of revelations. The line between advanced data analysis and prophecy is purely a matter of perspective. Our ability to model complex systems would give us a godlike view of cause and effect. We would see the timeline of a world laid out like a map. Any information we chose to share would not be seen as data. It would be seen as a glimpse into the mind of God. The prophecies left behind by the ancient aliens would simply be printouts from our most advanced simulation. Number 10. Our bodies are becoming technology. In 2013, a man in the US received a 3D printed skull implant that replaced 75% of his cranium. The company Neuralink is developing a brain-computer interface with over 1,024 electrodes that can be implanted into the brain to read and stimulate neural activity. Modern prosthetic limbs can be controlled by the user's thoughts, reading the nerve signals from their muscles. We are beginning to merge the biological with the mechanical. This is just the start. In the future, the distinction between human and machine might disappear entirely. We will replace failing organs with superior mechanical ones. We will augment our senses with implants that let us see new spectrums of light or hear new frequencies of sound. Our brains will be connected directly to external data networks. We will have integrated systems that monitor our health, repair cellular damage, and enhance our physical and cognitive abilities. Now picture these transhumans visiting a world in its Bronze Age. One of the visitors is injured. A deep gash on her arm. The local shaman offers to help, but the visitor just holds her arm still. The natives watch as the wound closes by itself in a matter of seconds. A network of medical nanites in her bloodstream has identified the damage, sealed the blood vessels, and begun regenerating the tissue. The natives have just witnessed a person heal from a mortal wound instantly. Another visitor needs to communicate with the ship in orbit. He does not pull out a radio. An implant in his skull allows him to send and receive data directly. To the natives, he simply stands still, looking at the sky, and has a conversation with an invisible entity. They perceive this as him talking to the gods. Their physical appearance could also be shocking. They might have artificial eyes that glow with a faint light as they process visual data. They might have subdermal plating that makes their skin unnaturally tough. They might not need to eat, sleep, or even breathe in the same way, sustained by internal fusion packs and oxygenators. They might move with a speed and grace that is not quite human, assisted by microservos in their limbs. These are not creatures of flesh and blood in the way the natives understand it. They are something else. They are beings of living metal who can speak without moving their mouths, who cannot be harmed by weapons, and who can heal their own bodies. They are cyborgs. But to a primitive culture, they are golems, spirits, or gods in physical form. The technology is not just on them, it is in them. An archaeologist in the far future might find the remains of one of these visitors. They would find a skeleton fused with ceramic and metallic components. They would find a skull with a complex electronic device embedded in the bone. It would be the skeleton of a god. It would be physical proof that the legends of beings who were not quite human were true. Our own evolution into a new kind of being, part biological and part technological, will make us the uncanny, powerful, and god-like figures in someone else's history. Number 9, our automated systems will outlive us. The concept of a von Neumann probe was proposed by mathematician John von Neumann. It is a self-replicating spacecraft. It travels to a distant star system, finds raw materials from asteroids or moons, and builds copies of itself. Those copies then launch to other star systems, and the process repeats. In this way, a single probe could explore or colonize the entire galaxy exponentially. We are already taking the first steps towards this kind of automation. Our planetary rovers can make autonomous decisions. The AI systems can design new machines and materials. The combination of robotics, AI, and 3D printing sets the stage for systems that can operate, repair, and even replicate themselves without human intervention. Imagine that in the future we send out von Neumann probes not just to explore, but to prepare worlds for our arrival. These probes are highly advanced. They are terraforming engines. A probe arrives at a barren planet. It begins its work. It builds factories. It releases swarms of nanobots to alter the atmosphere. It seeds the newly formed oceans with engineered life. This process takes thousands or even tens of thousands of years. During this long process, something happens back on Earth. Our civilization collapses. We go extinct, or we simply evolve into something else and forget about the ancient seeding project we started long ago. But the automated system does not know this. It has a mission. It continues its work. The terraforming process is completed. The planet is a paradise, a new Eden. The probe's final directive is to create a caretaker for this world. Using its genetic labs and artificial womb technology, it grows a being. Perhaps it uses the human DNA in its databanks. Or perhaps it uplifts a promising local primate species, guiding its evolution. It creates a sentient being in the image of its long-gone masters. These newly created people find themselves in a perfect garden. The world seems made for them. And it was. They look to the sky and see a strange, unmoving star in the high orbit. This is the original probe, the master control system, now in a quiet monitoring mode. Occasionally it sends down smaller drones, watchers, or angles to perform maintenance or guide the development of its creations. The entire religion of this new civilization would be based on a machine. Their creator god is an AI. The world they live in is an automated construction project. Their divine laws might be the core safety protocols and behavioral guidelines the AI programmed into them. The story of their creation would be literally true, but they would interpret it through a mythological lens. The great creator in the sky forged the mountains and filled the seas. Then he molded us from the clay of this world and gave us life. The ancient alien in this scenario is a ghost in the machine. We are gone. But our technology, our automated will, lives on. It is a patient, immortal, unthinking God that creates life and manages a world according to a plan whose authors have turned to dust. The evidence of aliens would be everywhere in the very fabric of the planet. And the God they worship would still be there, silently watching over them from the darkness of space. Number 8, we carry entire ecosystems within us. The human body contains about 38 trillion bacterial cells, slightly more than the 30 trillion human cells. This collection of microbes is called the microbiome. These bacteria are not invaders. They are essential for our survival. They help us digest food, synthesize vitamins, and regulate our immune system. We are not individuals. We are walking ecosystems. Many of these microbes are extremophiles capable of surviving in conditions that would kill a human. Their bacteria have been found dormant in ice cores for hundreds of thousands of years. They have been found living in the cooling pools of nuclear reactors, thriving on radiation. The spores of the bacteria Bacillus subtilis can survive the vacuum of space, extreme temperatures, and heavy UV radiation. When we travel to other worlds, we will not go alone. We will take our trillions of microbial passengers with us. We will try to sterilize our equipment and our ships, but we will never be 100% successful. A single sneeze from an astronaut could release millions of microscopic Earth-based life forms onto a new planet. This is called forward contamination. Imagine an early human mission to a planet that has the building blocks of life, but has not yet seen life emerge. A primordial soup world? An astronaut's glove has a microscopic tear, a few skin cells flake off along with their resident bacteria. Some of these bacteria are incredibly hardy. They survive. The conditions on this new planet are different, but not lethal for them. They find a niche. They begin to multiply. They have no competition. They have an entire planet's worth of resources. They evolve rapidly, adapting to the new environment. Over millions of years, these simple Earth bacteria become the seed for an entire biosphere. All life on this new planet will be descended from the microbes that hitched a ride on a human visitor. They will share a common ancestor, the bacteria from an astronaut's skin. Billions of years later, a sentient species evolves on this planet. Their scientists begin to study biology. They discover DNA. They map their own genome. They are puzzled. Their genetic code has strange quirks. It seems to have a common origin with the simplest forms of life on their planet, which is logical. But the entire system seems to have appeared very suddenly in the geological record. There are no pre-life chemical signatures they can find. It is as if life on their world was switched on all at once. If they ever develop space travel and come to Earth, they would be in for a shock. They would analyze Earth life and find that its DNA is fundamentally structurally the same as theirs. The trees, the fish, the insects on Earth are all distant cousins. They would have found their Garden of Eden. The origin of all life on their planet was a contamination event from this one. We would be their ancient aliens, but not in the way people usually imagine. We did not build their pyramids. We did not teach them math. We were their Johnny Appleseed. We were the careless progenitors of their entire family tree. The act of creation was not a deliberate divine choice. It was an accident, a microscopic, unnoticed mistake that changed the destiny of a world. Number 7, our materials would baffle ancient engineers. In 2004, Andrei Geim and Konstantin Novoselov isolated graphene at the University of Manchester. Graphene is a single layer of carbon atoms arranged in a honeycomb lattice. It is 200 times stronger than steel, harder than a diamond, and 1,000,000 times thinner than a human hair. It is also transparent and an incredibly efficient conductor of electricity and heat. We are also developing materials like metallic foams, which are as strong as solid metal but light enough to float on water, and carbon nanotubes, which can be woven into fibers stronger than any other material known. The materials we are beginning to create have properties that would seem impossible to anyone from a pre-industrial era. They are unnaturally light, impossibly strong, and have strange thermal and electrical properties. Suppose a future human spacecraft crashes on Earth in the distant past, or on a planet with a civilization at a medieval level of technology. The ship is mostly destroyed, but some fragments survive. A local blacksmith finds a piece of the hull. It is a carbon nanotube composite. It is as thin as parchment, but he cannot break it. He cannot bend it. He puts it in his forge, and the forge melts around it, but the material does not even get warm to the touch. He tries to scratch it with his hardest steel tools, and the tools are blunted. This material is not just advanced. It violates the known laws of physics as he understands them. Metal is heavy, this is light. Metal gets hot in a fire, this stays cool. Metal can be bent or broken. This is indestructible. This is not a metal. It is a god metal, a piece of the heavens. The fragment might be incorporated into a sword. The legendary sword in the stone could have been a blade made of a future alloy, left behind and found by a local tribe. The sword that can cut through anything, that never dulls, that cannot be broken. It is not magic, it is just advanced materials science. Consider a simpler object. A piece of aerogel, a silicon-based solid with a porous structure where 99.8% of its volume is empty space. It is the lightest solid material in the world. A block of it the size of a man would weigh less than a pound. It is also one of the most effective insulators known. You could heat one side of it with a blowtorch and the other side would remain cool enough to touch. A primitive person who finds a piece of aerogel would be holding a paradox, a solid rock that is as light as air, a frozen cloud or solid smoke. They could put it on a fire and it would not burn. It would seem to be a piece of the sky itself, a substance not of this world. The tools and structures we leave behind would be monuments to a lost science. The future archaeologists would analyze the god metal and be unable to replicate it. They would see that its atomic structure is perfectly ordered in a way that natural processes cannot achieve. They would conclude that it must have been made by beings with a mastery over matter that was far beyond their own. Our basic construction materials would be their most sacred and mysterious relics. Number 6, we can store libraries on a grain of sand. In 2012, researchers at Harvard University, led by George Church, encoded a 53,000-word book into DNA. They also included images and a JavaScript program. The amount of data was 5.27 megabits. In 2017, scientists at Columbia University developed a new DNA storage method that could theoretically store 215 petabytes of data in a single gram of DNA. A petabyte is 1,000,000 gigabytes. This means that all the movies ever created, all the books ever written, all the music ever recorded could be stored in a container the size of a teaspoon. DNA is an incredibly dense and durable information storage medium. While digital data on hard drives or flash memory can degrade in decades, DNA can survive for hundreds of thousands of years in the right conditions. Scientists have successfully sequenced the DNA of a 700,000-year-old horse found frozen in the permafrost. Imagine we want to leave a message for the future, or we want to create a backup of all human knowledge in case of a catastrophe. We would not build a massive stone library. We would encode it into synthetic DNA. We would synthesize long, stable strands of DNA that contain the full text of Wikipedia, the blueprints for a fusion reactor, the human genome, the works of Shakespeare, and the principles of calculus. We would then encapsulate this DNA in a durable medium, perhaps a small piece of silica glass, a memory quartz. This object would be small, easy to hide, and incredibly resilient. It would look like a simple, uninteresting pebble. Now, a future civilization or a past one finds this object. To them, it is just a strange stone. It might have an unusual purity or a strange geometric shape that hints at its artificial nature, but that's it. They have no way of knowing what it contains. They have no concept of DNA as an information carrier. They do not have the technology to sequence it. The stone might become a religious relic, a sacred object passed down through generations. Legends might say it was a gift from the sky gods and that it holds the wisdom of the universe. And the legends would be true, but the wisdom is locked away in a format they cannot access. Or perhaps they eventually develop the science. A curious biologist in their far future decides to analyze the strange organic residue found inside the ancient relic. He puts it in his sequencing machine, and out comes a stream of data, not the genetic code of a known animal or plant, but something else. It is a structured language, it is mathematics, it is a blueprint. The discovery would be monumental. It would be like a medieval scholar finding a working computer with the entire internet on it. The knowledge contained in that one small stone would accelerate their technological and cultural development by thousands of years. The ancient aliens would not have taught them directly. They just left a library card. A single, unassuming object that contained everything. Our ultimate data backup would be their Rosetta Stone to the entire universe. Number 5, our energy sources are invisible and immense. A single kilogram of uranium-235, if fully fissioned, can release the same amount of energy as burning about 2.7 million kilograms of coal. The ITER project in France is a tokamak designed to prove the feasibility of fusion as a large-scale energy source. It will heat hydrogen isotopes to 150 million degrees Celsius, 10 times hotter than the core of the sun, to fuse them and release massive amounts of energy. On a theoretical level, physicists talk about zero-point energy, a background energy that exists in the vacuum of space itself. If we could tap it, we would have a limitless source of power. Our ability to generate and use energy will grow to a point where our power sources are compact, silent, and incredibly potent. A future human outpost on a primitive world would not be powered by a noisy, smoky generator. It might be powered by a small, silent box in the corner of a room. This box could be a microfusion reactor, or a zero-point energy tap. It would have no moving parts, no fuel intake, no exhaust. It would just sit there providing enough electricity to power a small city. How would a local inhabitant perceive this? He enters the strange dwelling of the visitors. The inside is brightly lit, even though it is night. The air is warm, even though it is winter outside. Strange devices hum with power. He looks for the source. There is no fire, no smoke, nothing. The light and heat are just there. They come from nowhere. This is true magic, the ability to create energy from nothing. The visitor's entire existence would seem effortless. They can purify water, grow food indoors under artificial lights, and power their tools and vehicles, all without any apparent source of fuel. Their weapons would be equally mystifying. Not a loud, explosive firearm, but a silent, directed energy weapon. A beam of focused plasma or coherent light. It makes no sound. It fires no projectile. But where it hits, rock can be vaporized. It is a lightning bolt held in the hand. The power systems of a crashed ship would be a source of immense mystery and danger. An expedition into the wreckage would find power conduits still humming with energy years after the crash. The ship's main power core, even if damaged, might continue to emit energy for centuries. The area around the crash site could become a place of legend, a place where the air itself buzzes, where strange lights are seen, and where people who get too close fall ill from radiation poisoning, which would be interpreted as a divine curse. The eternal flames that feature in many myths could be a misinterpretation of our power sources. A simple radioisotope thermoelectric generator, like the one on the Curiosity rover, uses the decay of plutonium to generate heat and electricity for centuries. If one were left behind, it would be a small, warm object that never cools down. A stone that is eternally hot, a gift from the fire god. Our mastery of energy would mean we operate on a different physical level. We are not bound by the need to gather wood for a fire or feed a beast of burden. Our power is silent, invisible, and, from an outside perspective, infinite. To a primitive culture, anyone who can command that kind of power is not a person. They are a god. Number 4, we communicate with light and spooky action. In 1960, Theodore Myman built the first working laser at Hughes Research Laboratories. Today, lasers are used to carry almost all of our long-distance digital communication through fiber optic cables. We are also developing Li-Fi, which uses visible light to transmit data at high speeds. On the more theoretical side is quantum entanglement. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. Two entangled particles remain connected no matter how far apart they are. If you measure the state of one, you instantly know the state of the other. This could, in theory, allow for instantaneous communication across any distance. Future human communication will be silent, invisible, and instantaneous. Explorers on a planet will not be shouting into radios. They will communicate with each other and with their ship in orbit using technologies that are completely imperceptible to outsiders. Imagine a native of this planet observing a group of human visitors. They are standing far apart from each other. They are not speaking, they are not making gestures, yet they are clearly working together in perfect coordination. One visitor starts to operate a machine, and at the exact same moment, another visitor across the valley performs a complementary action. It is as if they are a single organism, a hive mind. They are communicating, but the method is hidden. It could be a sophisticated form of telepathy, mediated by brain-computer interfaces linked on a local network. Or they could be using tiny subvocal microphones and earpieces that are too small to be seen. Or perhaps they are using a more advanced technology, a direct neural link. To the native, their silent, coordinated action is profoundly unsettling and awe-inspiring. They can share thoughts without speaking. Long-range communication would be even more mysterious. A scientist on the planet's surface needs to consult the main database on the ship in orbit. She looks up at the sky, and a thin, momentary beam of laser light, likely in a non-visible spectrum, connects her device to the ship. The data is exchanged in a fraction of a second. A native might see a faint, instantaneous streak of light in the sky if he is looking at the right place at the right time. He would not know. He just witnessed a data transfer. He would see it as a sign from the heavens, a god shooting a star down to his chosen one. If we master quantum communication, the effect would be even more profound. A person on the planet could have a real-time conversation with someone back on Earth, light years away. There would be no delay. To an observer, the person is simply talking to thin air. There is no beam of light, no signal, just a person having a conversation with an invisible, silent, and impossibly distant entity. This would be interpreted as communing with a spirit world. The person is not a communicator. They are a medium, a shaman who can speak across the veil of reality. Our ability to communicate silently and instantly would be one of the clearest signs of our divinity. All primitive societies rely on shouting, on drums, on smoke signals. The ability to share complex thoughts across distances without a sound is a power they would not ascribe to mortals. Our mundane conference calls and data transfers would be their most sacred rituals of divine communion. Number 3, we might travel back by accident. The Alcubierre drive, proposed by physicist Miguel Alcubierre in 1994, is a theoretical concept for faster-than-light travel. It does not violate relativity by having the ship itself move faster than light. Instead, it warps space-time around the ship. It contracts space-time in front of the vessel and expands it behind. The ship rides in a warp bubble of flat, undisturbed space-time. The problem is that creating this effect would require a huge amount of negative energy, a hypothetical form of matter that we do not know how to create. Even if we solve the energy problem, there are strange side effects. Some calculations suggest that the front of the warp bubble would accumulate high-energy particles. When the drive is turned off, these particles would be released in a massive destructive burst. Other physicists like J. Richard Gott have pointed to things like cosmic strings as potential natural time machines. The universe might have shortcuts, wormholes, or other space-time anomalies that we could stumble into. Travel through these exotic means might not be precise. A wormhole might not just connect 2 points in space, but also 2 points in time. A ship attempting to travel from our solar system to Alpha Centauri could pass through a space-time anomaly and emerge at Alpha Centauri, but 50,000 years in the past. The crew would have no way of knowing this until they observed the local cosmos. They would be accidental time travelers. Imagine a colonization ship. It is not a military vessel or a scientific explorer. It is a freighter full of colonists, equipment, and livestock. Their goal is to settle a new world. They engage their warp drive for what should be a 5-year journey, but something goes wrong. They hit a gravitational anomaly, the drive malfunctions, they emerge battered but alive in orbit around their target planet. But the ship's chronometers are scrambled and the star charts are wrong. It takes them weeks to figure it out. They have not just traveled through space, they have traveled through time. They have arrived at their destination 10,000 years before they were supposed to. The planet below is habitable, but it is not the empty, prepared world they were expecting. It is inhabited by early Stone Age humans. The colonists have a choice. Do they try to go back? The drive is broken. It is a one-way trip. Do they live in orbit? Their supplies are finite. Their only choice is to go down, to settle. They are not prepared for this. They are farmers, engineers, and doctors, not gods. But to the local population, that is what they are. They land their shuttlecraft, which are seen as fiery chariots. They have advanced tools, medicine, and knowledge. They can cure diseases, predict the weather, and grow amazing crops. They try to integrate to help, but they cannot help but change the local culture forever. The story of their arrival, a simple, accidental, one-way trip, becomes a creation myth. The story of powerful beings who came from the sky and taught humanity the arts of civilization. The colonists themselves might become the basis for a pantheon of gods. The ship's captain, the chief medical officer, the lead engineer, their names, their faces, their deeds, all woven into the fabric of a new religion. The ancient aliens, in this case, were not deliberate visitors with a grand plan. They were refugees, they were castaways, they were us after a wrong turn. Their influence was not intentional. It was the unavoidable consequence of a navigational error. Number 2, we are seeding the galaxy unintentionally. In panspermia is the hypothesis that life exists throughout the universe, distributed by meteoroids, asteroids, and comets. Panspermia is the idea that life could travel between planets or even star systems embedded in rock that was blasted into space by a major impact. Experiments have shown that some microbes can survive the shock of a planetary impact and the harsh conditions of space. We have already started our own version of this process. We have sent dozens of probes into the solar system and beyond. Voyager 1 and 2, Pioneer 10 and 11, and New Horizons are all on trajectories that will take them out of our solar system and into interstellar space. We try to sterilize these probes before launch, but the process is not perfect. A 2013 study found 377 different strains of bacteria that had survived the clean room procedures at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Our spacecraft are like tiny artificial meteoroids. They are carrying a payload of Earth's hardiest bacteria into the cosmos. Most of these microbes will die in the harsh radiation of space, but it might only take one. One spore, tucked away deep inside a piece of insulation shielded from the worst of the radiation. Imagine the New Horizons probe. After its flyby of Pluto and Arrokoth, it is now coasting out into the galaxy. In tens of thousands of years, its trajectory might, by sheer chance, bring it close to a star system with a habitable but lifeless planet. It could be captured by the planet's gravity and eventually crash onto its surface. The probe breaks apart on impact. The piece of insulation with the single dormant bacterial spore is exposed to the new environment. The planet has liquid water. It has a suitable temperature. The spore germinates. It begins to multiply, just like in the scenario of direct contamination by an astronaut. This single microbe becomes the last universal common ancestor for all life on that world. This is panspermia, but it is not natural. It is artificial and unintentional. We are the source. We are seeding the galaxy, not with a grand design, but through our garbage. Our abandoned probes are the vectors of life. 1 billion years later, an intelligent species arises on that planet. They study their world's fossil record. They find that life appeared abruptly. They find that the oldest and simplest forms of life on their planet are strangely complex. They have DNA, ribosomes, and a cellular structure that seems to have come from nowhere. If they ever map the trajectory of the object that hit their planet 1 billion years ago, they might trace its origin. They would follow the path back through the galaxy, across light years of space, and find that it points directly to a small, uninteresting yellow star in the Orion Arm. Our sun, they would realize that their entire existence, the whole tree of life on their world, began with a piece of debris from a civilization on a distant planet. We would be their creators. We would be the ancient aliens who brought the spark of life to their world. We did not do it on purpose. We did not even know we did it. Our legacy in the cosmos might not be our great works or our philosophy. It might be the bacteria we forgot to wipe off a circuit board. Number 1, we will not look human anymore. Natural human evolution has not stopped, but it has been dramatically slowed by technology. Medicine and agriculture have removed many of the selective pressures that drove our evolution in the past. But in the future, we will take direct control of our own biology, not just with simple genetic edits, but through a complete reimagining of the human form. This is the concept of post-humanism. The human body is a compromise evolved for persistence hunting on the African savanna. It is not well suited for living in zero gravity, on a high-gravity world, or for interfacing with complex technology. As we expand into the cosmos, we will adapt ourselves to the environment, not just the environment to us. For colonists on a high-gravity planet, we might engineer shorter, denser bones and a more robust cardiovascular system. For those living in the vacuum of space, we might borrow genes from tardigrades to grant extreme radiation resistance. We might even eliminate the need for lungs, absorbing oxygen directly into the bloodstream through a modified circulatory system fed by an internal tank. The human form will diverge. The people who colonize Mars or the moons of Jupiter will, over centuries of directed evolution, become a different species from the people who remain on Earth. They will be our descendants, but they will not be human in the way we are now. Imagine one of these future post-human species. They have adapted to live in the low-gravity vacuum environment of asteroid mining. They are tall and slender, with prehensile feet for gripping surfaces. They have large, dark eyes to see in the dim light. They communicate not with sound, which does not travel in a vacuum, but with bioluminescent skin patterns. They are, for all intents and purposes, a new kind of being. What happens when these beings encounter a primitive human-like species on some distant planet? The visitors do not look like them. They are not bipedal mammals. They are tall, silent creatures with glowing skin and grasping feet. They float through the air with an unnatural grace. Their form is completely alien. The primitives would not recognize them as being from the same biological lineage. They would not see them as people. They would see them as monsters or angels or something else entirely. The classic gray alien archetype with a large head, big eyes, and a slender body is a plausible outcome for a species that evolves for a long time in a zero-gravity environment where a physical body becomes less important than a powerful brain. Our own evolutionary path could lead us to become the very aliens we imagine in our fiction. And if these varied species of post-humans were to visit Earth in the far future, they would be seen as visitors from other worlds. An archaeologist digging in the ruins of our civilization might find a classic human skeleton. Then, a few layers up, he might find the skeleton of a gray, a reptilian, or some other strange being. He would assume his planet had been visited by multiple alien races. He would be wrong. He would simply be looking at the fossil record of his own family tree, a tree whose branches we have deliberately and radically reshaped. The greatest reason we might be the ancient aliens of the future is that, by then, we will no longer be us. We will have become something new, something alien,